Welcome to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping Orange County. With your host, Dawn Camber.
Hello, live from the OC Talk Radio studios at UCI's Beal Applied Innovation Center. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber with another great guest positively impacting our community. Today, I welcome American Red Cross Southern California Region Preparedness Manager Kimberly Aufrecht. April is Earthquake Preparedness Month, a time to think about earthquakes before they occur. Thank you, Kimberly, for being on Impact OC.
Thank you, Dawn. So happy to be here.
Kimberly, please describe an earthquake and how it may feel and what may go on through the minds of those experiencing it.
Yeah, so an earthquake happens when two plates of rock rub together really violently. We feel that on the ground is shaking, and so a lot of times it's very sudden. We don't really have any way to predict earthquakes, and so suddenly the ground starts shaking, things start rattling, things fall off the shelf. It can be very terrifying for people who are experiencing that.
Now, when you're experiencing an earthquake, if you're close to the place where it actually hit, does that mean it's going to be worse for you than if you're further away?
Yeah, usually the worst of the shaking is at the epicenter of that earthquake. The farther away you are, it's going to be a little bit less intense, but right there close to that epicenter is where you're going to feel it the most.
Now, what should we do if we feel an earthquake? And I'm going to say when we're inside first.
Yeah, so when we're inside during an earthquake, the best thing to do is drop to the ground. Don't try to run, don't try to walk, just drop to the ground as right where you are. Find a place to cover, such as a desk or a table, and then stay there, hold on to that piece of furniture until the shaking stops.
What if you're driving?
If you're driving, pull over, stay away from any bridges, overpasses, power lines as much as you can. Get to the side of the road, put on your emergency brake, and just wait it out.
Have you ever been in an earthquake while driving?
I have not, thankfully, but it always happens when you least expect it.
What do others say about that experience?
I've heard a lot of people were very scared. It's very strange. Sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't. And a lot of people are a little bit nervous about those bridges and overpasses, especially on the freeway.
All right, let's talk about preparation. You're inside the house, an earthquake hits, you're moving, you need to drop to the ground, you get up, then what?
Yeah, so after an earthquake, there are a lot of things that could happen. We may not have access to all of our normal utilities that we're used to having access to, such as power, water, and gas. And so we need to have things already ready that we can grab and use in the event that we don't have access to some of those things that we're used to having. So we always, in the Red Cross, talk about get a kit, make a plan, be informed. So have that preparedness kit, make sure that everybody in your family has items that they can use and things that they can keep them independent and safe after an earthquake. And we also want to have a plan, know where everybody's going. If we're separated, how are we going to communicate? Where are we going to meet to get back together? And then be informed. Know where your jurisdiction is going to give you information and how they're going to give you that information and what kinds of things you're going to be expected to ask to do.
Talk about the kit.
Yeah, so an emergency kit basically just has items in it that you will need to live safely after an earthquake. So a lot of the food that we have requires some sort of preparation, cooking or other. And so we need to have food that is shelf stable and able to be consumed without too much preparation. We may not have our stove, we may not have our microwave. And so we need to have canned foods or ready-made protein bars, something that we can eat. We also need to have water. Every person in our household needs 1 gallon of water stored in that kit. And so there are a lot of different ways to do that, but we need to make sure that we have enough water to keep us hydrated for at least 3 days, if not more. And we also need to have items for our children. If we have children that are younger, diapers, wipes, and that sort of thing. And our pets also need items as well, food, water, extra leashes, a crate, and then any other customizable items, things that we might need to keep us from getting too bored if we're just sheltering in place at home.
And where should they keep such items?
It should all be kept in one place, some kind of bag, plastic container, A box, something that's easily grabbed in a place that is readily available when that earthquake happens. You may not have the ability to go searching through your whole garage to go find it. Keep it close to the door or in a closet where you'll be able to get to it.
What kinds of things have you heard that others do in order to have a kit?
So a lot of people do go out and purchase their kits. There are some ready-made kits out on the internet. The Red Cross sells them as well. We also talk about creating your own kit. A lot of the stuff that you need is going to be listed on redcross.org/prepare. And you may find that you have it all around your house already.
What about lighting?
Yeah, so lighting is really important. After an emergency or after an earthquake specifically, a lot of gas lines are going to be broken. So we don't want to use any kind of open flame, any candles or that kind of thing. Flashlights are better. Make sure you have a flashlight or and extra batteries or something that can be cranked or charged by solar.
And rotating stuff from your kit into your regular use so that it doesn't go bad.
Absolutely, yes. So you need to be making sure that you're checking all of those expiration dates. Your water's going to expire, your food's going to expire, and make sure you're using that stuff on a regular basis and replacing it so that you always have good, ready stuff available to you that's not expired and it's ready for you to eat.
Okay, what about staying connected to people near you and far away?
Yeah, so communication after an earthquake is going to be a little tricky. If our cell phone towers are still standing, they're going to be flooded with people trying to get in communication with their loved ones. So it's really important that we know several different ways to communicate. Picking up the phone and calling is probably not going to be a good option. So we're going to want to have either an alternate way of communication. So email and texting is probably going to be a better bet than just picking up and calling. But getting a out-of-state relative or someone who lives out of our area, and communicating with them may be a little bit easier than trying to complete 2 local calls.
What about having a landline? Is that beneficial?
I have heard that landlines are beneficial. I don't know that I've heard a lot of research on that.
But if you have a landline, many times you're doing it through a cable situation, right?
Yes, and having those cables still intact is going to be an important part of that as well. So if the cables aren't working, then the landline won't work either. But most of the time, a lot of communication is going to be difficult during an earthquake. Just give it some time.
So when an earthquake strikes, and we can give one as an example, there was one in New York right before the eclipse. What does the Red Cross do when an earthquake hits?
So the Red Cross is ready to respond and open shelters to help people who were affected by a disaster. So we have shelters that open after an emergency where everyone's welcome to come, stay in a safe place, get some food, and get connected to resources. We'll have caseworkers and volunteers there who know different organizations that are working in the area in order to help connect people to resources for recovery.
So when an earthquake strikes, is it wise to have some comfortable shoes around just in case? I mean, should everyone live their life just so that with the idea that an earthquake may hit, they may know what to do, much like a firefighter knows, get on their clothes so they have to get out and cover whatever they got to do?
Yeah, I actually keep a pair of boots under my bed just in case a disaster or an earthquake happens at night. Then I'm able to put on my boots, and if anything fell or broke on the ground as the earthquake was happening, I know I won't get stepping on glass and get glass in my foot, so that I'm prepared for if an earthquake does happen at night. So that's always a good thing to do, just to be ready. We never know when an earthquake's going to happen. We can't predict when they're going to happen. And so it's best to just have those plans in place just in case something does happen.
And what should you have in your car in case it happens?
Yeah, so some kind of small go bag or a portable kit in your car would be a great thing to have. A little bit of food and water just in case that earthquake happens when you are in your car, as we talked about earlier. Just in case you can't get home and you need to spend a few days away, something that can keep you hydrated and fed and in a healthy manner.
And also going around the home because things could fall. So what do you recommend people do for that?
Yeah, so there are lots of different options for securing your home before an earthquake. Looking around for large, bulky furniture that could fall during an earthquake is really important, and making sure those are braced to the wall or secured to the wall in some way. Your mirrors, your pictures, anything, your TVs should all be secured strongly to the wall so that they don't fall on top of you or your loved ones during that earthquake.
Do you hear of people really doing everything that you're saying?
I hope so. I know that a lot of people, they always say, oh, well, it's not going to happen to me. I'll do it later. But we really never know when that earthquake is going to happen. So I think the earthquake in New York is a really great wake-up call that it could really happen anywhere and it could happen anytime. We really do need to be prepared.
What about keeping your important information?
Yeah, so a lot of those documents we're going to need for recovery. So our birth certificate, our driver's license, any medications and things that we take, we need to have all of those records in a safe place. You can scan them and upload them to a cloud so you can access them over the internet if you're able. Or you can save them in your kit or put them in a safe deposit box at the bank. You should have some kind of copy somewhere in a safe place that you'll have in case your originals get destroyed.
What about children? How young can they learn about earthquake preparedness?
I'd say at any age, you should really be talking about earthquake preparedness with your kids. We actually have presentations for kindergarten through 5th grade where we teach children how to prepare for earthquakes at home. And I think that it's really important for the kids to be part of the plan so that they know what's going on at home, they know what to do in case of that earthquake, and they have their own responsibilities so that when the earthquake does happen, they're responsible for something and it helps their response a little bit more. They tend to deal with that stress a little bit better if they're involved in planning.
Now, April may be Earthquake Preparedness Month, but there is a month that is, I think, a nationwide day that everyone practices.
Yeah, so the earthquake, the Great Shakeout is usually the 3rd week of October, I believe. I don't remember what date exactly it is this year, but yes, the Great Shakeout is in October.
And explain what will happen during the Great Shakeout.
Yeah, so during the Great Shakeout, organizations, schools, and groups across the country will all participate in a earthquake drill at the same time. And so it's really great to get your kids together, have your family together, do an earthquake drill at home. During they'll be doing it at school for sure, but also if you have earthquake drills at home, it helps drive home that, hey, this is what happens during an earthquake at home, and here's what we would do and where we would go.
So ideally, what would you like a good earthquake plan to look like?
So a good earthquake plan would have responsibilities for every member of the household. You'd have your kit already done. You'd know how to communicate and get in touch with everybody. You should have a meeting place. If you have to evacuate your neighborhood or if you have to evacuate your home, you should have 2 meeting places, one close to the home and then one outside the neighborhood somewhere. So if you get separated and you're not able to get in communication using cell phones, you can go to that meeting location and get everybody back together again.
And is it good to have an out-of-state contact when
Absolutely.
That happens?
Yeah, an out-of-state contact is always a good thing. Sometimes an out-of-state call will go through when a local call may not.
And when it comes to food, what kinds of food should people have, particularly for earthquakes?
So usually food that doesn't need to be prepared, something that doesn't need to be cooked, something that's shelf stable, has a long expiration date. I personally have the protein bars that probably taste awful, but they will at least get me through a few days. You can also do canned food, canned vegetables, things that you can just open and eat.
What are some of the dangers that occur if people don't prepare?
So a lot of people may find themselves running out of the basic supplies. They may run out of their medications or food. They may run out of water. They also may find themselves in a situation where they may harm themselves, or they may come into harm because they were not prepared for the dangers of an earthquake.
Now, solar power radios, are those beneficial?
Absolutely, yes. You should have a radio, some kind of battery-powered radio. There are solar-powered. I have one that's crank, that you just crank the lever and it charges the radio. Those are really important to be able to get information from your local jurisdiction, the county, the city, fire department. Anybody who's giving you information about what's going on are going to use those channels, those emergency channels that are going to be accessible through that radio.
Now, you were telling me before we came to air that you have a lot of people who like to volunteer to help. Explain what their duties may be and how others can join you.
Yeah, so the Red Cross is an organization of volunteers, and we have volunteers out doing amazing work all throughout the country. And so we have people that come they respond, they prepare, and they help in recovery. And so we do disaster response. We have people going out for home fire, small home fires, all the way up to big shelters for an earthquake, for example. We also have volunteers who follow up with our clients and make sure that they're on the right track, connecting them to resources for recovery. And then I'm the preparedness manager, so I have a lot of volunteers that are out installing smoke alarms, and they're talking about earthquake preparedness out in the community, making sure that people know what to do to be prepared.
Now, there's smoke alarms, but isn't there a certain kind of a gas alarm that's also important?
Yeah, carbon monoxide alarms. The Red Cross personally doesn't install those, but it is really good to have one. Your heater, a lot of different things in your home are going to produce carbon monoxide, so it's really important to have an alarm that will alert you to that dangerous chemical.
So if a person wants to volunteer to help you, what do they need to do?
So they can go to redcross.org/volunteer and sign up, and you'll be put in contact with volunteer services. If you're interested in disaster, you'll eventually end up with a leader such as myself. We will kind of help you find the right place for you to get involved and find a place that you can make a difference in your community.
And how would that work? With an earthquake hits, are they going to assume that they're going to get the call? How does it work?
Yeah, so our volunteers are on teams. They usually pick one or two different activities that they want to do. And so when something happens, such as an earthquake, or if there's a wildfire evacuation called, we will call our volunteers, and they'll come and help our clients. In the event of an earthquake, a lot of our volunteers are going to be impacted as well. And so it's really important that we're all ready and prepared to not only respond for our families, but also for our communities.
And are they trained?
Yes, Red Cross trains all the volunteers for free. We have lots of different areas of training that you can get involved in.
And when it comes to the Red Cross, it's like a very old organization that is there for the people. So all the donations go right into the organization to help people.
Absolutely, yes. All of our donations go back to our programs and our communities.
And share with us what they can learn from your website, because it's a lot of information.
We do have a lot of information. So redcross.org has information on everything the Red Cross does, from blood donations to service to the armed forces. We also have redcross.org/prepare that has information on how to prepare using those 3 steps that I talked about: get a kit, make a plan, and be informed. So it's going to talk about all 3 of those and what specifically to do to complete each step. It will also talk about all the different types of emergencies. We have everything from earthquakes to wildfires to home fires. We have pandemics. We have all sorts of different types of preparedness information on that website.
Including getting information about CPR.
Yes, CPR. Redcross.org has information on how to sign up for a CPR class.
And explain the importance of that.
So CPR is important because you never know when you're going to need safety information. You never know where you're going to come across someone who may be experiencing a cardiac event or a breathing emergency. So it's really important to have as many people trained to respond as a bystander as possible, so that those who are experiencing a medical emergency out away from the hospital are able to get care that will keep them alive until first responders come.
And you use hands-only CPR these days. Explain what that is.
Yeah, so hands-only CPR is a preparedness presentation that I do, where we teach just the chest compressions portion of CPR. So we don't do the AEDs or the rescue breaths, but I've talked to a lot of first responders who say that the chest compressions are really the most important part. It's important to know all of it, but chest compressions and hands-only CPR is going to be enough to save the life of a person who's experiencing a cardiac event.
And how young can a person learn that?
So I typically focus on 16 and older for my hands-only CPR presentation.
So they could learn it and potentially save lives.
Absolutely.
Have you heard of that happening?
There are several stories out there about people saving lives having taken a hands-only CPR presentation. I personally have not heard of anyone that I know of using that.
And that comes in handy even in drowning situations.
Yes. Usually the full CPR is going to be really important for drowning, with the rescue breaths and the full AED and everything. But with a cardiac event, the chest compressions are really important.
So when it comes to earthquake preparedness, do you find that people generally know what to do?
I think a lot of people in Southern California do know what to do. A lot of people in Southern California maybe don't do it. A lot of people, like even myself included, like I know that there are several things that I need to do at home to be more prepared for an earthquake, and I'll do it later. But you never know when later will become too late when there's an earthquake. It can happen anytime.
What are some of the wrong things people do during an earthquake?
Run. I've seen a lot of people run outside. We don't want to run during an earthquake. If you're inside, stay inside, drop cover, and hold on. If you're outside, stay outside. We don't want to cross into a building or out of a building. That's where things are falling. That's where people get hurt. If you are outside, get away from as many trees, buildings, power lines as possible. Get down on the ground, cover and hold on, cover your neck with your hand, and just stay in place until the shaking stops.
So they can get a list of the things for their preparedness kit from your website.
Yes.
Explain the website.
Yeah, so redcross.org/prepare has a list of items on that you will need for your kit, and you can go look at the different items there. You may find that a lot of those are already in your home.
And you've been involved with the Red Cross for many years. Why do you like it?
I enjoy making a difference. Natural disasters and hazards are something that's always been really interesting to me, even from a young age. So the idea of being able to help the people that are affected by disasters has always been something interesting to me. So when it was time to find my full-time career, I knew that I wanted to find an organization that was responding to disasters and helping the people when they're at their most vulnerable.
And what do the volunteers say about helping?
Everyone that I talk to loves it. We have some amazing volunteers at the Red Cross. They've connected, made great friends. They make a difference in their community, and they're really excited to be giving back.
What are the demographics of the volunteers?
We have a lot of very diverse volunteers at the Red Cross right now, and we're continuing to add to those numbers every day.
And where do they volunteer when they do it?
So a lot of them will volunteer within their own county. So each of our counties is a chapter. A lot of volunteers will go to the nearest chapter office. There are opportunities to get involved out in the community as well. We talked about the home fire responses and the smoke alarm installations. Those are kind of everywhere around our county in Orange County.
What are the requirements to be a volunteer?
There are no requirements. You just volunteer by going to redcross.org/volunteer and sign up. We have youth volunteers, we have adult volunteers, we have senior volunteers. We have all sorts of people that are helping us and working out in the community.
In your capacity, do you think about earthquakes every day, or you just go about your life and if it happens, you're ready?
So I feel like I'm generally prepared for an earthquake. I usually don't wake up worrying about it. I know that I have my boots under my bed. I have my preparedness kit in my garage, and I have a kit in my car. I'm not generally worried about what to do when an earthquake hits.
So what would you like people to do right now to be ready?
I think the most simple thing that you could do right now, get a pair of shoes, get a flashlight, and put it next to your bed.
And then if something happens, at least they could see themselves to get around whatever they got to do.
Yeah, if something happens at night, you'll have your shoes, you'll have your flashlight, you'll be able to check on your household members, you'll be able to get yourself to safety without stepping on broken items, broken glass.
Funding, how are you funded?
By donations. We are funded by the generous donations of the American people. And our mission is to mobilize the generosity of our donors and our volunteers to alleviate human suffering.
Do you have fundraisers?
I'm actually not sure. I know that we have a fundraising fund development group. A lot of our funds come through our website, redcross.org/donate. And we also have different organizations that also partner with us in that as well.
I also understand that often when there's an earthquake and there's a mass casualty, people donate blood. Explain that.
Yeah, so we have a lot of different fixed sites around the Orange County where people can sign up for a blood donation appointment and actually donate blood. We also have blood drives that go on throughout the county so that people can give to those who are in need during a medical emergency, such as an earthquake, but also just everyday things. Car accidents and surgeries also require blood.
How often can someone donate blood?
Every few weeks, I believe. It depends on what type of blood and what type of donation you're doing.
And what's the age they need to be?
I'm actually not familiar with the age requirements.
Okay, but when they do donate, they're saving a life.
Absolutely.
And so to get more information about Red Cross, they go to
redcross.org. And there's all sorts of information on all of our lines of service there.
And so if people want to get a kit, they can also go to that website.
Yes.
And then they can help build a kit. But you were saying that pretty much anything they need might be in the home already.
Yeah. Usually, I had a ton of flashlights just laying around, so I could put a few flashlights in my kit. I did have to buy like the water and the food. But a lot of the things that I needed, a lot of my like extra clothing and warm clothing and a emergency blanket, I could find just at my home.
But what's something that people overlook?
So something that I didn't have for a long time was actually the radio that we talked about. That's probably the more expensive and more difficult to come by item in that kit. And so I actually just got that recently, but I now have my radio, so I'll have that information when the time comes.
And batteries?
Batteries, yes, absolutely. Batteries expire. Batteries have an expiration date on them, and so you need to keep those fresh, keep rotating those through.
Them in.
Mm-hmm.
And also they need to make sure that they have enough flashlights in and around the house.
Yes, flashlights at least at every bedside would be a great option. Having a few flashlights in the kit, having them at nearby where you hang out most often would be a good option too.
And maybe shoes hidden somewhere?
Shoes, shoes are going to be really important after an earthquake. You never know what's going to break. Lighting, light fixtures, things are going to fall off the ceiling, off the shelves. We don't want to walk over that with our bare feet.
How long do earthquakes last?
They can last anywhere from just a few seconds to up to a minute. It depends on the intensity and the strength of the earthquake.
So when it happens, it will eventually stop? Eventually,
yes. When it happens, it may feel like it's just a really, really long earthquake. It may feel like it happened just like that. It really depends on where that earthquake is and where we are in relation to that earthquake.
And what should people do when it happens in terms of how they feel?
Definitely take a few breaths. A lot of people are going to feel really stressed before or during or after an earthquake. And it's really important that we just take a few moments, take some deep breaths, understand that we're going to feel stress and that it's okay. Everybody gets nervous. Everybody is scared. We just need to take a few moments to just think about what we do next and don't let panic take over.
And if you're prepared, it shouldn't be much to think about what you got to do.
Right. Yeah, if you're prepared, you know your next steps, you just follow your plan. That's why it's important to think about it beforehand, because when that earthquake happens, you're nervous, you're panicking. If you have all the plans ahead of time, it really helps kind of put yourself in a mindset of, okay, this is my next step. You're just following the steps. You're not figuring out what happens next because you've already done that. You're already prepared.
How often should you review that plan?
I would recommend at least reviewing it twice a year, making sure all of your expiration dates are still up to date, making sure if you've had additional members added to your household or if members have moved away from your household, making sure all of those things are in order for what your situation is right now.
And certainly be in touch with work and school so that they're prepared.
Yeah, so most schools and most workplaces do have some kind of plan. So knowing what those plans are going to be is really important as well. Especially at school. If you have kids at school, talk to your school about what that plan is for you to pick up your child. Because it may not be easy. It may be a lot of parents are going to try to pick up their kids, and they're going to have a very specific way that they're going to do that to keep your kids safe. So having that conversation with your school is very important.
So one should be calm when the unexpected happens.
Absolutely. Calm is when you keep yourself calm, you're able to think of what your next step is. You're able to think of that plan. If you're panicking, that just leads to a lot of additional feelings of stress. Keeping calm is going to help those around you keep calm as well.
And so, generally speaking, as April is Earthquake Preparedness Month, you highly recommend people go over their plans, check their kit, make sure their car is equipped just in case.
Yep, this is the month to do it, especially having that earthquake in New York just a week ago. It's really important now to just turn our attention to earthquakes and what we would do during an earthquake. Do you know where your safe places are? What would you do if you're sitting at home and an earthquake happens? Where would you go? So one of the things I like to do is when I'm sitting at home or when I'm going about my everyday life, I would think, okay, where would I go if I were in this room during an earthquake? And that kind of helps me be prepared to go to those places when that earthquake does happen.
And there's a benefit. If you're prepared for an earthquake, you're prepared for
just about anything.
And anything can be?
It could be a wildfire. It could be a home fire. We have lots of winter storms here in California. At least we have the last couple of years. So floods, flash floods are also a concern for Southern California as well.
And so just make sure you have everything you need in an accessible place.
Absolutely. Have your kit, have your plan. You may also need to add some things to your plan for example, wildfires, which are, we know that those are coming. We usually can have a little bit more notice that a wildfire is occurring than that an earthquake is occurring. So knowing if you're asked to evacuate from your home, which you probably won't be for an earthquake, but you would be for maybe a wildfire, know where you'd go. Where will you stay? Will you stay at a Red Cross shelter? Do you have a friend or a family member nearby that you could stay with? Or maybe a hotel in a location that you're familiar with. So having those plans in place before those earthquakes or those wildfires, home fires happen is very key to being able to recover quickly.
And if you have to evacuate, what should you grab first, besides your family and your dog?
Grab your Go kit. You should have a mobile version of your household kit that has some of the items that you're going to need, kind of more of the basic stuff, 3 days at least. Grab that kit in an easy to carry container and pile your family, your pets into your car and get us away as safely as possible.
What kind of container is easy?
A backpack, a tote bag of some kind is some of the more popular items I've seen.
I've heard of people storing their items in actual trash cans.
I've heard of that as well, and that would be great for a household kit. Keep it in a trash can. It's big, it's easy to find. In terms of a Go kit, it's a little bit big to be able to transport.
Well, if
quickly.
They put it in a trash bag and then grab the trash bag and then leave.
Yeah, you could do that. That would be a good solution.
Thank you, American Red Cross Southern California Region Preparedness Manager Kimberly Aufrecht, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
You've been listening to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping our community. Right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.